The email notification pinged while 3 different monitors tracked my vital signs, and my baby's heartbeat filled the room like a frantic drum solo. 7.5 months pregnant, hooked up to enough medical equipment to launch a space shuttle, and my husband of 5 years chose this exact moment to divorce me via email. Not a text, not a call, certainly not in person, an email. Subject line, moving forward separately. I'm Caitlin Fisher, I'm 29 years old, and apparently I'm about to be single. The email read like a business proposal. Bradley had actually bullet pointed his reasons for leaving me, like I was some underperforming employee getting a termination notice. Irreconcilable differences topped the list, followed by different life goals, and my personal favorite, need for personal growth. The man who couldn't grow a tomato plant suddenly needed personal growth. My hands shook as I scrolled down, the baby monitors beeping, accelerating with my heart rate. Then I saw it. Effective immediately. He'd already filed. While I'd been admitted 3 days ago with complications that could trigger early labor, while doctors worried about our baby's survival, Bradley had been at a lawyer's office signing papers. I switched to our banking app, already knowing what I'd find. Our joint account, which had held $47,000 just yesterday, now showed $12.83. He'd left just enough to keep it technically open. The checking, the savings, even the emergency fund we'd built together, gone. 5 years of careful budgeting, overtime hours, missed vacations to save for our future, our baby's future, transferred out while I lay here fighting to keep our daughter inside me for just a few more weeks. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister Diane, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years thanks to some stupid fight about our mother's china set. Why is Bradley posting pictures with some blonde from your living room? I opened Instagram with trembling fingers. There was my husband, arms wrapped around a woman who looked like she was barely old enough to drink, standing in front of our fireplace, our wedding photos still visible on the mantel behind them. The caption, "New Chapter, with my queen at Tiffany Fit Life." The nurse, Sandra, must have noticed the monitor changes because she rushed in, her sneakers squeaking against the linoleum. "Honey, you need to stay calm. Whatever's happening, it's not worth—" "My husband just divorced me by email," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Emptied our accounts and moved his girlfriend into our house." Sandra's mouth fell open. She'd been taking care of me for 3 days, had seen Bradley visit exactly once, staying for 12 minutes while scrolling his phone. That absolutely worthless piece of— She caught herself. "Sorry, professional boundaries." "No, please continue. I'd love to hear your professional opinion." She checked my vitals, muttering under her breath about certain anatomical impossibilities for Bradley's future. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the email again, then typed a single word reply. "Understood." "That's it?" Sandra's eyebrows shot up. "Just understood?" "Just understood." My phone rang immediately. Bradley. I declined. It rang again. Declined. The third time, Sandra grabbed it. "Mr. Fisher? This is ICU. Your wife can't come to the phone right now because— Oh wait, she's not your wife anymore, is she? Also, you've been removed as her emergency contact. Have a blessed day." She hung up and handed the phone back. "Oops, slipped." I actually laughed, then winced as a contraction hit. False alarm, but a reminder that this baby didn't care about her father's timing. "You know what's funny?" I said to Sandra as she adjusted my IV. "He thinks I'm just some pushover accountant who'll roll over and accept this. He has no idea what I do for a living." "What do you do?" "I'm a forensic accountant. I specialize in finding hidden assets during divorces." The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. I help women discover what their husbands are really worth when they try to claim poverty. Sandra's grin could have powered the entire hospital. "Oh, this is going to be good." My phone buzzed again. Diane. "Caitlin, I'm looking at public records. Bradley listed the separation date as 2 months ago. That's fraud, 2 months ago. When I was 5.5 months pregnant and he was supposedly at a conference in Denver. I pulled up his Instagram again, scrolling back. There she was, Tiffany, his CrossFit trainer, posting selfies from Denver that same weekend. The conference he'd charged to his company card. Another text, this time from Roger, my business partner. Bradley just called asking for your client list. Said you're transferring your accounts to him. I told him to perform an anatomically impossible act. You okay? The contractions were getting stronger. Not active labor, but warning shots. Stress-induced, the doctor had warned. I needed to calm down, but how exactly does one stay zen when their life is imploding via email? Sandra returned with the doctor, who looked at my chart with concern. Mrs. Fisher, your blood pressure... Hey, Ms. Morrison, I corrected. My maiden name. Effective immediately. The doctor paused, then nodded. Ms. Morrison, we need to keep you stable. Whatever's happening in your personal life is being handled, I said, pulling up my laptop. Sandra, could you grab me a coffee? This is going to be a long night. You can't have coffee, honey. You're pregnant and on medication. Decaf, then. I need to feel productive while I destroy a man's entire life using Excel spreadsheets and completely legal methods. Sandra practically skipped out of the room. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time is it there. I read everything. Thank you so much for your support. The morning brought revelations like a Black Friday sale. Everything was shocking and somehow got worse the more you looked. Patricia, Bradley's mother, called at 6 a.m., her voice shaking with rage I'd never heard in 5 years of polite family dinners. That little workout tramp is wearing my grandmother's pearls, she hissed. The ones from the family safe, the ones I was saving for my first grandchild. Patricia came from old Connecticut money. Her father had made a fortune in shipping, leaving her more than comfortable when he passed. She'd always been generous but careful with the family heirlooms. I pulled up Instagram, and there was Tiffany, doing a sponsored post for protein powder while wearing the pearls Patricia had shown me once, reverently, like holy relics. The same pearls Bradley had sworn he'd never touch without his mother's permission. Patricia, I need you to screenshot everything, every post, every picture. Already done. I've got 3 albums worth. Did you know she's been calling herself the future Mrs. Fisher since April? April, when I was planning our baby shower, when Bradley said he was too busy with work to help pick decorations. The real kicker came an hour later when human resources from my health insurance called. Ms. Fisher, we're calling about the termination of your coverage. Excuse me? Your husband filed separation papers dated 2 months ago, making you ineligible for spousal coverage. The termination is retroactive. I'm currently in the ICU pregnant, with complications. The silence on the other end could have filled a cemetery. Ma'am, that's insurance fraud. If he filed false dates while you're hospitalized, would you mind sending me that in writing? Absolutely. And ma'am, we'll be opening an investigation. Your coverage remains active pending review. He actually tried to forge your signature on the separation acknowledgement, another felony. Bradley was collecting them like Pokemon cards. Mallory, my best friend since college, and now a very successful divorce attorney, arrived with reinforcements, coffee, fresh clothes, and a gleam in her eyes that should have terrified Bradley. So, she said, setting up her laptop on my hospital tray, he's committed mail fraud, wire fraud, insurance fraud, forgery, and theft. It's like he's going for fraud bingo. Can you take my case? Honey, I would pay you to take this case. Pro bono until we get your money back, then my standard rate from his assets. She pulled up document after document. By the way, remember that prenup he insisted on? The one where infidelity means the cheating spouse pays a penalty? He made me sign it because he was paranoid I'd cheat with a client. The irony was giving me heartburn. Or maybe that was the baby trying to kickbox her way out. $200,000. That's what he owes you. I nearly choked on my ice chips. He doesn't have $200,000. He has a 401k, a Mercedes, a boat he forgot to mention in initial disclosures, and parents with deep pockets who are currently furious. Mallory's smile could have scared a shark. He'll have it. The investigation into our finances revealed Bradley's spending pattern, that $47,000 he'd stolen, already hemorrhaging away. Within 2 weeks, he'd burned through it all. $30,000 to pay off secret credit cards I didn't know existed, $15,000 to Tiffany for what the receipts called relocation expenses, but were actually Botox, designer bags, and a professional photo shoot for her influencer career. At 22, she needed Botox, like I needed another husband who communicated via email. The last $2,000 went to a security deposit on an apartment. presumably for after he'd kicked me out of our house. Roger called with more ammunition. I went through the company credit card statements you asked for. Bradley charged $8,000 in client entertainment. That corresponds exactly with Tiffany's Instagram posts. Spa days, dinner dates, even a weekend in Napa Valley. While I was on bed rest? While you were on bed rest. The client he listed for these expenses? The company doesn't exist. I checked. The contractions were getting more regular, and the doctor, Dr. Ramirez, who'd been following my case with the dedication of someone binge-watching a soap opera, insisted I needed to stay calm. Doc, with all due respect, my husband is trying to leave me barefoot and pregnant. Literally. He even took my good sneakers from the house. He took your shoes. Check Tiffany's Instagram story. Dr. Ramirez pulled out her phone, looked, and made a face like she'd bitten into a lemon wrapped in disappointment. Those don't even look good on her. Her ankles are too thick, right? Thank you. Sandra had started a betting pool among the nursing staff on whether I'd crack before delivering. So far, I was holding steady at eerily calm with a side of planning something devastating. The smart money was on me, staying composed until Bradley realized what hit him. Patricia visited that afternoon, bringing something unexpected. Bradley's father's journal from 30 years ago. I need you to see this, she said, placing the worn leather book on my bed. History repeating itself. The entries detailed how Bradley's father had done almost exactly the same thing, abandoned Patricia when Bradley was 2, emptied accounts, moved in with his secretary. The difference, Patricia hadn't been a forensic accountant. I was helpless, she said, gripping my hand. You're not, end him. My hospital room had transformed into a war room, 3 laptops, 2 phones on speaker, and enough legal documents to rebuild the Library of Congress. Mallory had brought in her paralegal, Janet, who looked like someone's sweet grandmother until you realized she was documenting evidence with the thoroughness of a CSI team. Found another account, Janet announced, adjusting her bifocals. Credit Union in Jersey. Opened 6 months ago, only Bradley's name. 6 months ago. When he'd started working out more and coming home talking about optimizing his life, I should have known. No man suddenly starts caring about macros at 34 unless there's a woman or a midlife crisis involved. Bradley got a 2-for-1 special. The business forensics were my specialty, and even bedridden, I could work magic with spreadsheets. Every receipt, every transaction, every suspicious charge got categorized, color-coded, and cross-referenced. Bradley had been sloppy, probably because he thought I was too pregnant and overwhelmed to notice. Look at this, I showed Mallory. He used the company card for Tiffany's apartment deposit, classified it as client venue inspection. The client being his, don't finish that sentence, I'm trying to keep my blood pressure down. The deeper we dug, the more we found. Bradley had been living a double life funded by creative accounting and outright theft. His CrossFit membership charged to his company. Tiffany's supplements and workout gear, employee wellness initiatives. The man who complained when I bought name-brand peanut butter was spending $400 a month on someone else's protein shakes. Then came the smoking gun. Patricia had given us Bradley's email password. He'd used the same one since college because, as he once said, why complicate things? His stupidity was my blessing. The emails between him and Tiffany went back 8 months. Before we'd even started trying for a baby, the most damning one was from last week. Once I get the divorce finalized, we'll have the house free and clear. Caitlin's too hormonal to fight back. Hormonal? I said to the room. I'll show him hormonal. But the best part was Tiffany's response. Just make sure you get everything before she pops out the kid. My lawyer says fathers have to pay way more after the birth certificate is signed. Her lawyer. The 22-year-old fitness instructor had a lawyer. Roger called with updates from the business side. Bradley's boss wants to talk to you. Turns out, Brad's been telling everyone at work that you went crazy during pregnancy, that you abandoned him, and he had to protect his assets. Of course he did. Frank wants to know if you have proof otherwise. He's upset about the company card situation. I sent Frank the spreadsheet. 20 minutes later, Roger called back laughing. Frank just scheduled a Monday morning meeting with Bradley. Subject line, urgent compliance review. He's done. Dr. Ramirez checked on me again, this time bringing her resident, Dr. Kim, who looked about 12 but had the exhausted eyes of someone who'd seen everything. Your blood pressure is actually improving. Dr. Ramirez noted, surprised. Most people in your situation, most people aren't building a revenge portfolio while on bed rest. Dr. Kim pulled up a chair. Is it true your husband posted gym selfies while you were in surgery yesterday? How did you? The whole hospital is following this. Radiology has a PowerPoint presentation tracking the timeline. The investigation revealed Bradley's biggest mistake, the house. While both our names were on the mortgage, the down payment had come entirely from my inheritance, from my grandmother. I had the paper trail. Bradley had contributed exactly nothing except opinions about the curtains. Mallory was building the case like a prosecutor, preparing for the trial of the century. Abandonment during medical emergency, theft, fraud, adultery with evidence, insurance fraud, forgery, and now embezzlement from his employer. It's like he read a guide on how to lose everything in divorce court and thought it was an instruction manual. My sister Diane had become an unexpected ally, using her social media skills to document everything Tiffany posted. She just uploaded a video tour of her house. She's showing off your grandmother's china, the set we fought about. Want me to comment? No. Let her keep posting. Every video is evidence. The contractions were getting stronger, but I refused to give birth until everything was in place. This baby would not arrive into uncertainty. Sandra joked that I was the first patient she'd seen literally scheduling labor around litigation. You can't actually control when you give birth, Dr. Ramirez reminded me. Watch me. Patricia brought dinner, homemade soup, not the hospital's attempt at food that looked like it had already been digested once. She also brought news. Tiffany's been selling your jewelry on Facebook Marketplace. I nearly dropped my spoon. My jewelry? Your grandmother's engagement ring. Listed for $2,000. It's worth $15,000. The engagement ring my grandmother wore for 60 years. The one she left specifically to me. The one I kept in the bedroom safe. Bradley must have watched me enter the code during one of his fake, loving husband moments when he pretended to care about my pregnancy. Screenshot everything. Already done. And I bought it. You what? I bought it under a fake name. Picking it up tomorrow. Figured you'd want it back, and this way we have proof of theft. The universe has a sense of humor, and apparently it was all in on the joke. Bradley's co-workers started reaching out like relatives, suddenly remembering you exist when you win the lottery. Except they were offering something better than congratulations. They were offering evidence. Frank, Bradley's boss, called personally. Caitlin, I need you to know that what Bradley's been saying about you. We knew it was bull. A woman doesn't build your kind of reputation and suddenly go pregnancy crazy. What exactly has he been saying? That you became irrational, violent even. Said you threw a laptop at him? I can barely lift my phone right now, Frank. We know. We also know he's been using company resources for personal expenses. The investigation you started? We're expanding it. That fictitious client he created? We're tracking every expense charged to that account. Then came the most unexpected call. Bradley's golf buddy, Harrison, a man who'd once told me that women belonged in the kitchen, not the boardroom, had something to say. I don't like getting involved in marital disputes, he started, which was rich coming from someone on his third wife. But Bradley crossed a line. He's been bragging about upgrading to a newer model, said you were depreciating like a used car. Charming metaphor. My daughter's your age. If someone said that about her, look, I recorded it. Last 3 golf games. Him talking about hiding money, about Tiffany, about leaving you with nothing because what's she gonna do, audit me? Yes, Bradley. That's exactly what I was going to do. The recordings Harrison sent were gold. Bradley, after several beers, outlining his entire plan, how he'd been moving money slowly, how Tiffany had been coaching him on what to say to lawyers, how he figured I'd be too overwhelmed with the baby to fight back. She's not going to leave the hospital for weeks, his recorded voice slurred. By then, I'll have everything locked down. House will be mine, money's already gone. She gets nothing but stretch marks and a baby I never wanted anyway. Sandra, who'd been checking my vitals, had to sit down. Did he really just say he never wanted the baby? The baby he begged for. The baby he said would complete our family. The baby whose nursery he was supposedly too busy to help decorate. Men like that should come with warning labels. They do. We just think we can fix them. The trust fund revelation came from my lawyer reviewing my grandmother's estate documents, the Morrison Family Trust. Something Bradley had dismissed as old people paperwork contained a clause. Upon the birth of my first child, I would receive access to $500,000 set aside specifically for ensuring the security and education of future generations. Bradley had no idea. He'd never asked about my family's finances, assumed because I drove a Honda and shopped sales that there was nothing there. My grandmother, who'd survived the Depression and invested wisely, would have laughed at his assumptions. "He really doesn't know?" Mallory asked, reviewing the documents. I mentioned it once. He said it was probably just a few thousand in bonds, and changed the subject to his fantasy football league. The social media situation had exploded. Tiffany, living her best life in my house, was posting constantly. Morning yoga in my Zen space, my home office, meal prep in this gorgeous kitchen with my KitchenAid mixer prominently displayed, self-care Sunday in the master suite, my grandmother's quilt visible on the bed. But the internet is undefeated. Someone, I suspect Patricia, had leaked the real story to a local Facebook group. Chonburi Community Watch had picked it up, and suddenly, Tiffany's Instagram was flooded with comments. "Is that the pregnant wife's house? Girl, you're wearing a married man's wife's clothes while she's in the ICU? This is embarrassing for your soul." Tiffany made her account private within hours, but the damage was done. Screenshots were everywhere. Dr. Ramirez had become invested in the drama. Medical question: how are you this calm? Most people would have stress delivered by now. Revenge is surprisingly soothing. I'm putting that in my notes. Patient finds litigation therapeutic. The parallel dramas were intensifying. My sister Diane, who'd initially reached out from curiosity, was now fully Team Caitlin. Our 2-year silence over China patterns seemed ridiculous now. I was petty, she admitted, sitting beside my bed. "You were right about Mom's China going to you. You were the one who took care of her." We were both grieving. "Yeah, but you were also pregnant and being betrayed. I win the Worst Sister Award. Tiffany wins the Worst Human Award, so you're fine." Patricia's evolution was even more dramatic. The woman who'd once defended Bradley's every decision was now his worst enemy. 30 years ago, she told me, handing over more documents, his father did this to me. I promised myself Bradley would be different. I failed. You didn't fail. Bradley failed. I have his father's financial records from the divorce. Same patterns, same hidden accounts, same arrogance. But his father was smarter. He at least waited until after the baby was born to leave. Bradley always did have to one-up his dad. The insurance fraud investigation had uncovered something beautiful. Bradley had forged my signature on the separation papers. Federal offense. The insurance investigator, a woman named Cheryl who sounded like she'd been waiting her whole career for this case, was almost gleeful. Forgery, fraud, and falsifying dates while you were hospitalized? We're referring this to the FBI. The FBI for insurance fraud? Honey, it crossed state lines when he filed in Jersey while you were hospitalized in Pennsylvania. That makes it federal. Bradley had federal crimes on his resume now. He'd really overachieved. Harper Miranda Morrison arrived at 4:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, 6 weeks early but fierce, screaming like she was already filing her first lawsuit. The nurses said she was perfect. I said she had excellent timing. The trust fund documents had been prepared and Mallory was waiting in the hallway with a notary. Bradley, of course, was nowhere to be found. His Instagram showed him at a 5 a.m. sunrise boot camp with Tiffany, both wearing matching beast mode tanks that cost more than my hospital copay. The man who couldn't wake up before 9 a.m. for our anniversary was suddenly Mr. Morning Workout. Probably best he's not here, Sandra said, cleaning up Harper while I signed trust documents between contractions aftershocks. I would have accidentally dropped something sharp near him, multiple times. The trust activated immediately upon Harper's birth certificate being filed. $500,000, protected in an ironclad trust Bradley couldn't touch, even if he knew about it. My grandmother, a woman who'd survived the Depression by hiding money in coffee cans, had apparently learned about proper estate planning in her later years. Roger, my business partner, had spent the night running forensics on Bradley's company expenses. The total was staggering. $67,000 over 2 years in miscategorized personal expenses. He expensed their couple's massage as client relationship building, Roger reported, disgust dripping through the phone. The client he listed doesn't exist. We verified with business registrations. Completely fabricated. Shocking. He also claimed Tiffany's entire CrossFit certification course as professional development. For a financial analyst, $8,000. Well, he did develop into a professional criminal. Dr. Ramirez came to check on us, cooing over Harper before turning serious. The insurance company called. They're expediting approval for all your care, including Harper's NICU stay if needed. Apparently, someone high up is very interested in your case. That someone turned out to be Cheryl's boss, a woman named Director Williams, who'd been waiting for a clear-cut fraud case to make an example. Bradley had volunteered himself as tribute. Patricia arrived with coffee and news. Tiffany's moving out. I nearly dropped Harper. What? She found out about the FBI investigation. Also discovered Bradley's broke. She's been Instagram living on credit cards he's maxing out. Girl thought she was getting a sugar daddy. Got a Splenda father instead. Splenda father? Fake sweet and leaves a bad aftertaste. Even exhausted from delivery, I had to laugh. Patricia had developed a savage sense of humor in her fury. The forensic accounting was revealing more every hour. Bradley had opened 6 credit cards I didn't know about, all nearly maxed, totaling $45,000 in debt. He'd been juggling minimum payments by stealing from our joint savings. The house of cards was collapsing. He's been taking cash advances to pay other cards, Mallory explained, reviewing the statements. Classic Ponzi scheme, except he's both the scammer and the mark, Frank called with an update. Bradley's been terminated effective immediately. We're pressing charges for embezzlement. His final check will go directly to restitution. He doesn't know yet? He'll find out Monday morning when his keycard doesn't work. Security's been instructed to record it for documentation purposes. The poetry of it. Bradley, who'd ambushed me with divorce papers via email, would be ambushed with unemployment via disabled door access. Janet, Mallory's paralegal, had been building a timeline that looked like a conspiracy theorist's wall, except every connection was real and documented. Look at this, she said, proud of her work. April 2nd, Tiffany posts about new beginnings. April 3rd, Bradley opens the Jersey account. April 4th, first major withdrawal from your joint savings. It's like he was following a how to commit fraud checklist. He really thought he was smart. Stupid people often do. Harper was thriving despite being early. The NICU doctors said she was impressively loud for a preemie. I told them she inherited her mother's ability to make herself heard. Diane had been managing the social media documentation, and the internet had turned on Tiffany completely. Someone found her old posts about not being a homewrecker, just a gold digger, and the irony was chef's kiss perfect. She's trying to do damage control, Diane showed me Tiffany's latest post. Says she had no idea you were pregnant or married. The woman was wearing my maternity clothes in her workout videos. Yeah, that's being pointed out repeatedly in the comments. Also, someone found the wedding registry you and Bradley had online. Your names are literally on the LaCruse she's been cooking with. The hospital social worker, Maria, had been a godsend. When the insurance situation looked dire, she'd immediately filed for emergency Medicaid due to spousal abandonment. The state takes abandonment of pregnant women very seriously, she explained, especially when there's documented fraud. You'll be covered, and the state will go after him for reimbursement. Saturday afternoon, Tiffany reached out directly. A DM on Instagram. Can we talk? I called Mallory first. Should I? Record everything. The call was illuminating. Tiffany, it turned out, was also a victim of Bradley's lies, just a dumber one. He said you guys were separated for a year, she whined, her voice younger than her photos suggested. Said you were crazy, that you'd abandoned him, that the baby wasn't his. The baby that looks exactly like him? I didn't think about that. He showed me papers, commitment documents, said you were in a psychiatric hospital for months. Mallory, listening in, mouthed, "Another felony." Tiffany continued, "I'm moving back with my parents. I can't afford anything. He said he was rich. He said he owned a company. He said," she started crying, "I'm so stupid." "Yes," I agreed. "You are, but you're also 22, so there's hope. Send me everything he gave you. Every document, every text, every promise. Why would you help me? I'm not helping you. I'm destroying him. You're just collateral assistance. Monday morning arrived like Christmas for lawyers. Bradley walked into his office building at 8:47 a.m. According to security footage Frank later shared, cocky and carrying his usual overpriced coffee. At 8:48 a.m., his key card was denied. At 8:49 a.m., security escorted him to HR. The termination meeting, as Frank gleefully recounted, was biblical. We presented him with your forensic analysis, Frank told me over the phone while I nursed Harper. His face went from confused to angry to whatever color is past pale. Translucent, maybe? What did he say? He tried to blame you, said you must have falsified everything. Then we showed him his own emails authorizing the expenses, his signature on everything, the fake company he created. He actually asked if we could work something out. Well, let me guess, no? Security had to physically escort him out when he wouldn't leave. He kept saying, "This is a misunderstanding," while carrying a banker's box of his personal items. The simultaneous serving was orchestrated like a military operation. As Bradley was being fired, process servers were hitting him from every angle. Divorce countersuit at the office, embezzlement charges in the parking lot, insurance fraud notice at his car, federal investigation subpoena as he tried to flee. It was like a legal flash mob, Mallory said, having stationed herself across the street to watch. He actually tried to run in his dress shoes, slipped on ice and fell into a puddle. The process server had to help him up to hand him the federal papers. The house situation resolved itself when Tiffany left voluntarily. She'd already been packing when the police showed up about the stolen jewelry. Patricia's Facebook Marketplace evidence was enough for a warrant. She was actually wearing your grandmother's ring when they arrived, Patricia reported, claimed Bradley gave it to her. Officers explained that's still receiving stolen property. Did they arrest her? No, she cooperated fully. Gave them everything. The jewelry, the receipts showing Bradley knew they were yours. Even texts where he called them family heirlooms were liquidating. She won't be charged if she testifies. Tiffany, finally understanding the magnitude of Bradley's lies, had switched sides completely. The documents she sent were damning. Fake psychiatric holds for me. Forged divorce decrees dated months ago. Even a falsified death certificate for the baby. He told her the baby died? I asked Mallory, stunned even after everything. He told her lots of things. All documented, all criminal. The FBI agent actually whistled when she saw the fake death certificate. Said that's a whole different level of federal crime. The credit card companies, once they learned about the fraud, froze everything. Bradley, who'd been living on credit for months, suddenly had no access to money, the $47,000 he'd stolen. Gone in 2 weeks to bills, Tiffany, and trying to maintain an image he couldn't afford. His Mercedes was repossessed Tuesday afternoon. He'd missed 3 payments. Juggling money so poorly, even his car gave up on him. The repo man, according to Patricia, who'd accidentally been driving by, she'd been stalking him, was very efficient. Bradley tried to negotiate, she said. Offered the repo guy his watch. It was fake. The repo guy actually laughed. Wednesday brought the country club. His membership, 3 months overdue, was revoked. The golf club followed Thursday. By Friday, his CrossFit gym had banned him for non-payment and creating a hostile environment after Tiffany's tell-all Instagram live session. She really went scorched earth. Diane showed me the recorded live. Tiffany, in tears, explaining how Bradley had manipulated her, lied to her, used her credit cards when his got declined. She even showed receipts, literally held them up to the camera. The comments were brutal, but deserved. Girl, you thought you won a prize and got a penalty. Imagine fumbling a pregnant wife for this, the way karma doesn't miss. The FBI investigation had expanded. Turns out forging psychiatric documents and death certificates crossed even more federal lines than insurance fraud. Agent Martinez, who contacted me Friday afternoon, seemed almost impressed. In 20 years, I've rarely seen someone commit this many federal crimes for this little money, she said. Usually people who forge death certificates are running million-dollar schemes. Your ex did it for what? A mediocre house and a girlfriend who can't do basic math. Almost impressive. Well, it would be impressive if it wasn't so pathetic. We're adding mail fraud, wire fraud, forgery of government documents, and conspiracy charges. He's looking at serious time. Bradley's family was fracturing. His father, Richard, who'd initially defended him, changed his tune when Patricia showed him the journal entries from 30 years ago. "My God," Richard said, visiting me and Harper at home. We'd finally been released. "He really is just like I was, except dumber. I at least had the sense not to commit federal crimes." That's a low bar, Richard. Yet Bradley limboed right under it. The asset recovery was swift. The prenup's infidelity clause was ironclad, and with Tiffany's testimony and evidence, Bradley couldn't deny it. His 401k was liquidated, $75,000. The fake Rolex collection he thought I didn't know about, $8,000. Fake, but he'd paid real money for them. The boat registered under his brother's name, $25,000. His parents, horrified and trying to make amends, offered $30,000 to cover the rest. "We'll pay it," Patricia insisted. "Then he'll owe us, with interest, compound interest, the kind that doubles every year." Even Bradley's brother, Stephen, who'd always enabled him, was done. He asked me to lie about the boat ownership, said you were trying to steal his assets. I actually felt sorry for him. And now I'm changing my last name. I don't want to be associated with this level of stupid. The courtroom looked like a Law and Order episode where they couldn't afford enough extras for the gallery. Our side, Mallory, Patricia, Richard, Diane, Roger, 3 character witnesses, and a forensic accounting team. Bradley's side, a public defender named Carl who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, including prison himself. Bradley showed up wearing the rental suit from our wedding. Apparently, he'd kept it all these years, forgetting to return it, and now it was the only suit he had. It was too tight from all that CrossFit, making him look like a sausage that had dreams of being formal wear. Judge Harrison, no relation to Bradley's golf buddy, reviewed the case file with expressions ranging from disbelief to disgust to what I swear was suppressed laughter. "Mr. Fisher," she began, "in my 30 years on the bench, I've seen some spectacular failures of judgment. You've managed to surpass them all. You've committed crimes I didn't know existed." Bradley tried to maintain dignity. It was like watching a wet paper towel pretend to be cloth. The evidence presentation was methodical destruction. Mallory started with abandonment, leaving a pregnant wife in ICU with complications, then theft, the $47,000 plus everything since, insurance fraud, the forged documents, the false dates, wire fraud, crossing state lines, mail fraud, using USPS for fraudulent documents, embezzlement, $67,000 from his employer, identity theft, forging my signature, false documents, the psychiatric holds and death certificate. "Your Honor," Mallory said, "Mr. Fisher didn't just burn bridges. He committed arson across 3 states and federal jurisdiction. He created a how-to guide for destroying your own life." Carl, the public defender, tried weakly. "Your Honor, my client was experiencing a midlife crisis." "At 34, Judge Harrison interrupted. "An early midlife crisis. The pressure of impending fatherhood that he begged his wife for? According to these text messages where he promised, and I quote, 'I'll be the best father ever, babe. Nothing matters more than our family.'" Carl looked at Bradley with pure exhaustion. "The defense rests. Already? You're not going to mount any actual defense?" "Your Honor, what would you like me to say? That forging a death certificate for an unborn child is somehow defensible? I went to law school, not clown college." Even Bradley's lawyer had given up on him. Tiffany testified via video link, now living with her parents in Ohio. She'd brought receipts, literally. Every text, every false document, every lie Bradley had told. "He said she was crazy," Tiffany testified, mascara running. "Said she'd tried to kill the baby. Said he was protecting his future child by leaving. He showed me fake hospital commitment papers. While she was hospitalized trying to keep that child alive?" Judge Harrison clarified. I was stupid. I'm 22 and I was stupid, and I thought he loved me." "Well, you're right about one thing. You were spectacularly stupid." Even Tiffany's lawyer winced at that. The financial forensics were presented in excruciating detail. Every falsified expense, every stolen penny, every lie documented in color-coded spreadsheets that Roger had designed specifically to be so simple even Bradley could understand them. Bradley tried to speak in his defense. It went poorly. Your Honor, I was trapped in a loveless marriage that you begged for? Judge Harrison referenced our text history Mallory had submitted. These messages show you texting your wife, "I love you," the morning you filed for divorce. Caitlin was controlling. The woman who let you manage all the finances until you stole everything? I never meant for what? The federal crimes, the abandonment, the theft, the forgery, the fraud? Be specific, Mr. Fisher. You never meant for which of your many crimes? This is persecution. No, Mr. Fisher. This is prosecution. Learn the difference. Patricia testified about the patterns between Bradley and his father. I failed to break the cycle, Your Honor, but Caitlin won't. She's stronger than I was. Richard followed, condemning his own son. I was a terrible husband 30 years ago. Bradley watched and learned the wrong lessons. But these crimes, this cruelty, this is all him. The judge's decision was swift and brutal. Divorce granted immediately. All marital assets to me, including the house, since my inheritance paid the down payment. The prenup's infidelity clause enforced. $200,000 to be paid through asset liquidation and wage garnishment. Full custody of Harper to me. Supervised visitation only for Bradley, if and when he could afford it. From prison, unlikely. As for the criminal charges, Judge Harrison continued, this court recommends maximum sentences for all state charges. Federal charges will be addressed separately, but I'm recommending no leniency. The federal charges were worse. Wire fraud, mail fraud, insurance fraud, forgery, false documents, each carrying potential years. The plea deal, when it finally came, was 6 years federal prison, 3 years supervised release, full restitution, and a lifetime ban from financial sector employment. 6 years, Bradley gasped at his lawyer. You're lucky, Carl responded. The prosecutor wanted 10. The only reason you got 6 is because you're too stupid to be a real danger to society. Bradley turned to me as court officers prepared to take him into custody. Caitlin, please, think of Harper. She needs a father. She has a family. I interrupted. Grandparents who love her, an aunt who adores her, and a mother who'll teach her to never, ever tolerate men like you. This isn't fair. Judge Harrison laughed, actually laughed. Mr. Fisher, you emailed your pregnant hospitalized wife divorce papers. You stole everything she had. You moved another woman into her house. You committed multiple federal crimes. You forged a death certificate for your unborn child. And you think this isn't fair? Bradley's last words before being led away were, I want to appeal. Carl didn't even respond. He just packed his briefcase and left. Probably to go home and reconsider his career choices. 6 months later, life had developed a rhythm that didn't include checking bank accounts in panic or wondering where my husband was at 2 a.m. Harper was thriving, rolling over and babbling at anyone who'd listen, particularly Patricia, who'd become the grandmother she'd always wanted to be without Bradley's interference. My forensic accounting firm had exploded. Turns out, publicly destroying your ex-husband's financial crimes was excellent marketing. I specialized in what Mallory called Bradley cases, women whose husbands thought pregnancy or illness meant vulnerability. My client list grew so fast I had to hire 2 associates and a personal assistant. The house had been transformed. Every trace of Bradley and Tiffany had been erased and replaced with Harper's toys, my grandmother's furniture, which I'd retrieved from storage, and photos of our new life. The garage gym Bradley had installed became my office. I liked the irony of building women's futures where he'd built his delusions. The surprise came in a letter from Ohio. Tiffany had written a genuine apology, not the Instagram-worthy kind, but real accountability. Dear Caitlin, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I was selfish, stupid, and cruel. I believed lies because they were prettier than truth. I hurt you when you were most vulnerable. I'm in therapy now, learning why I thought I deserved someone else's life instead of building my own. I've been working 2 retail jobs for 6 months to save this. Enclosed is $5,000. Everything I saved. It doesn't make anything right, but maybe it can go toward Harper's college fund. I'm also willing to testify in any future proceedings. Sincerely, Tiffany P.S. You were right. Those clothes never fit me properly. I looked ridiculous and see that now. I put the money in Harper's 529 plan. Tiffany was young and stupid, but she was learning. Bradley, getting updates from federal prison, was not. His letters arrived weekly, each more pathetic than the last. I found God, one claimed. I understand now what I've lost, said another. Could you send money for commissary? Asked a third. I returned them all unopened, stamped with no longer at this address. Patricia had become my unexpected best friend. We met for coffee every Thursday while Harper charmed the baristas. I got another letter from Bradley, she said one morning, pulling out an envelope covered in prison stamps. He wants me to convince you to let him see Harper. What did you tell him? Nothing. I sent him back a photo of Harper wearing a onesie that says, "My daddy's in federal prison for financial crimes." Diane found it on Etsy. They make those. Apparently there's a market. Who knew? Diane and I had repaired our relationship completely. The china set that had divided us now sat in my dining room, used for Sunday dinners where we laughed about everything except the past 2 years. Remember when we didn't speak for 2 years over plates? She said one evening, feeding Harper mashed carrots. Remember when my husband emailed me divorce papers from my ICU bed? Okay, you win worst life event. I also win best revenge story. Roger had helped me expand the business into a consulting firm. We worked with divorce attorneys, helping women discover what their soon-to-be ex-husbands were really worth. The Bradley method, as we called it, had uncovered millions in hidden assets across dozens of cases. You turned trauma into a business model, Roger said, reviewing our quarterly profits. Capitalism at its finest. My pain is now very profitable. The meeting that changed everything came 8 months after the trial. Director Williams from the FBI called with an offer. We want you to consult on financial fraud cases, specifically marriage-related fraud. You've got a gift for finding what men think they've hidden. Federal consulting? Think of it as turning Bradley's crimes into a career opportunity. The pay's excellent and you can work from home. We know you've got Harper to think about. I accepted immediately. Bradley's spectacular failure had become my spectacular success. The ultimate irony came in an email from Bradley's former company. They were being audited because of his embezzlement, and Frank wanted to hire me to handle the forensic review. I know it's weird, Frank said on the phone, but you know our systems better than anyone. Plus, the poetry of you fixing what Bradley broke, priceless. I took the job. The audit revealed Bradley had cost the company nearly $100,000 over 3 years. They used my findings to strengthen their case, adding another 2 years to his sentence. One evening, as I rocked Harper to sleep, I got a text from another divorced client. Saw your ex's mom at Walmart. She said he's mopping prison floors now. Karma's beautiful. Even Patricia was savage about her son's fate. He went from financial analyst to toilet analyst, she'd told the Walmart shopper. The final document came on Harper's first birthday, Bradley's parental rights termination papers, signed voluntarily in exchange for reduced restitution payments. He'd literally sold his daughter for a lighter financial burden. Patricia cried when I told her. I raised a monster. You raised a man who showed me exactly what I don't want Harper to grow up accepting. In a way, he taught me the most valuable lesson, how to recognize and destroy financial predators. That evening, surrounded by family, Diane, Patricia, Richard, Roger, Mallory, and even Sandra from the hospital, we celebrated Harper's birthday. No one mentioned Bradley. He'd become what he'd tried to make me. Nothing. As I cleaned up after the party, my phone pinged with a news alert. Local man's federal fraud case used as FBI training example. There was Bradley's mugshot, his crime timeline, and a quote from Director Williams. This case shows how domestic financial abuse can escalate to federal crimes. Mr. Fisher thought his pregnant wife would be too vulnerable to fight back. He thought wrong. I screenshot it and texted it to Mallory with 2 words. Still understood. Looking at Harper sleeping in her crib, safe and loved and surrounded by people who'd fought for her before she was even born, I realized Bradley had given us one gift. He'd shown us exactly how strong we were. He'd tried to break me at my weakest moment and instead created an army of women who'd never let another Bradley win again. My phone buzzed one more time. A potential client, 8 months pregnant, whose husband had just cleaned out their accounts. I responded immediately. I can help. First consultation's free. He won't win, because they never do. Not anymore. Not on my watch. Bradley was right about one thing. I did audit him, and he failed spectacularly. Thank you so much for watching. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You will love it. See you in the next story.